Hey, everybody, we're here with Chase Harmer of Wishes. Chase, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on today. Appreciate
Of course, man, of course. Okay, so give us a quick rundown of your background, which is super impressive, and kind of what you're working on now. But what you've done is just really, really impressive. So I wanted to cover it and ask you about it.
Yeah. So, just a little background. I've been in payments for 26 years now. I started when I was 19. Kind of done everything that you can possibly do in payments. Payments is really kind of a boring, commoditized type of business. I knew when I built a big portfolio that I was going to lose the war of attrition if I didn't actually build some value. And we started building technology in 2014. Became a card issuer, built fraud prevention services. Lots of reporting insights for e-commerce merchants and marketplaces. And, I utilized all of that past experience of the card issuing and building transparency and utilizing those cards for spend to create what I believe will revolutionize crowdfunding and charitable giving and for Wishes. And that's to make donations transparent for any charity or fundraiser or e-commerce client that's a merchant that's trying to raise funds for a cause or a specific charity of their choosing that maybe aligns with their brand and their objectives and what their customers want to participate in.
Yeah, and I love that because you hear stories in the news of what some of these executives at quote unquote nonprofits make, and then people think that their money is actually going to help this organization, and it goes to admin fees and to the executives and other things, right? So it's in the last 5 years probably gotten a few bad publicity pieces and things where people kind of wonder, like, where's all that money going? And then bad actors in the space, right, who take all this money and pretend like they're donating more than they actually are, just to get kind of the social credit. So I like that. I want to talk to you about ProfitPay and what you did there, because I think it's super interesting, like the payments business. And for people who don't know, can you kind of walk through, like, everybody kind of knows the transaction fees are probably like 3 to 5%, depending on the card for the merchant.
Sure.
But how does it really work on the back end? Because I know people start payments companies. How does it actually work on your side of being a card issuer? And how does this all work?
Yes. I think it's important to realize that everybody has various types of cards in their wallet. You have a rewards card, debit card, corporate card, potentially. All those cards have different rates and costs, and because all those banks are different as well. And there's a variety of reasons why they do that. A lot of it's generated by rewards that they give back to the people that spend. But the whole entire ecosystem of payment processing, the whole entire fee structure is created by the card itself, right? So people that start payments companies and they say, hey, we're going to charge 2.9 and 30 cents. That's an overarching cost that basically allows them to profit on all of the cards that come through. Because debit cards, if you're a B2C brand selling stuff online and you're selling mainly to all consumers and the cost of that transaction is less than $100, your actual card costs are less than 1.5%. But
right.
You know what I mean? And that's the reality, because people, if it's less than $50 or $75 or $100, people typically use their bank card to do that. And if they're using their bank card, that means the cost is less than 1% in most cases, but you're still getting charged 2.9%. So that's the margin. That's how they make money, right?
Right.
And if you utilize a high cost card like a corporate card or rewards card that issues rewards, the cost of those cards, the raw cost of those cards is higher. But at 2.9 and 30 cents, companies like Stripe are always making money no matter what. So
they're banking on the fact that with the percentage plus the flat fee that will cover anything where if they get into trouble on that. But I think you're right. Debit cards, the actual cost is 0.5, 0.5%.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard, generally speaking.
Yeah, it's 5 basis points and 22 cents. So on a $100 transaction, the raw cost of that's 27 cents. Now, you take a $100 transaction and you're working with Stripe, you're paying $3.20 for that same exact $100 transaction. So, obviously that's why payment processing companies like us exist to, obviously give lower cost structure, but not only that, add different types of value for the merchant that's, trying to do some unique things in the space.
So how in the world, this is amazing. I'm looking at your bio here. You built ProfitPay and processed billions of dollars in payments.
Sure. Yeah.
How did you do that? What was it like processing billions of payments? I mean, refunds, chargebacks, merchants, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Yeah. So, we built a platform that, we got some pretty large merchants, so back when I was 19, my story really is I got into the hotel business. Back then, we had a very unique selling proposition for hotels. I went around the country, signed up thousands of hotels, built a huge portfolio of hotels that was processing, hundreds of millions of dollars a month, billions of dollars a year. And what I realized was that every single year they were calling me to reduce their fees. And so I figured, I can we can reach a wider audience of clientele, and, ultimately add more value to the ecosystem. And it won't be exactly about the rate. So when we started building technology, we started getting large e-commerce merchants and travel clients. And we signed multi-billion-dollar contracts in the travel space, for guys that were already processing, $100 million a month in travel, so you get a few of those kind of clients on board. It's pretty easy to start crushing through billions in transactions. Building the infrastructure to do all of the, chargeback, refunds, management, all that stuff. That was where it was fairly complex, and created a lot of pain for me as an entrepreneur. But, a lot of lessons we learned from that. And, but at the end of the day, we built a pretty large company. And then I was able to take some of my winnings there and start focusing on a nonprofit that could impact not just e-commerce merchants, but, the greater impact on the world, so.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to get your take on some of the, like, day to day running this company. Like, what were some of the issues that you came across? I'm sure like you've got some wild stories of things that happened. Like what can you tell us?
Yeah. Well, so I remember when we first, this was back in like 2016, maybe 2017. Like, so we got our first really large travel merchant, and these guys were doing something like, it was like 15, 20 million a day. Right.
Oh my
and we
gosh.
just finished building out the gateway, and we finished up building out these fraud tools and all this stuff. And the gateway broke, because they were processing so many transactions. And I remember I remember it because we were all we took everyone in the company, all the engineers, everyone up to this huge mansion in Tahoe for, Christmas, like a holiday, like get together, and like literally like the day that we got like this fire happened. Like it was madness. Like it was just sheer panic, trying to fix this stuff. Everyone was like trying to have a good time, but everyone was like super stressed out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like, and then the client's like, obviously, notably. So, stuff like that, it happens, you build for what you believe will work really great, and then then you get some merchant that just like busts through all the chains that you thought you put up and variables, and that kind of stuff happens, but it makes you better, and then and more robust. So like that was a story I'll never forget, because I was like, just like, oh my god, it's like the worst and best holiday.
Okay. So we're going to get to wishes here in a second.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts. Since you were in the payment space, what do you think about the Shopify ecosystem and how with the Shopify website or Shopify Plus, say you're doing large volumes, you're almost forced to use Shopify Pay, because if you opt out of Shopify Pay as your processor, you're hit with the fee. Are you familiar with all that? Like you've seen all this, right? Like, what do you think? Like, I think you're charged like 0.5%, and it kind of scales down depending on what Shopify plan you're on, but like, what do you think about that? That's pretty wild to me. I mean, from the payment space, it's
smart, right? So anyone,
sure.
If when you control the ecosystem, that's what so this is very similar to what happened in the hotel space. So like back when I started building a huge portfolio of hotels, like we were like the Lone Ranger. We came in there and we were swooping up all these hotels, and then sure enough, the big brands like Choice Hotels that own like 9 or 10 brands, they would come in and they say, hey, we're going to do a deal with Block. We're going to, there's like an RFP, and then they would put like all these people would compete for the business and then had to do a rev share back. Shopify is motivated by ShopPay because they earn revenue on all that, of course, right? So they realize, the more that they can control the ecosystem, the less people will go out of the ecosystem, and they make it easy. So that's why building unique tools is important, because the stuff like the Wishes stuff that we built, nobody else has it. And if you think about there's tons of e-commerce sites that actually utilize some sort of charity or nonprofit element to get conversions, and it's proven to actually work, right? So, but
100%.
But what happens to the money afterwards? There's no validation on what happens to that cash. In fact, if you go sign a deal with like the Melanoma Foundation, you might pay them $25,000 to get a badge on your site, but that might be the only money that melanoma ever gets, right? There's no validation of what happens.
So you can promote that you're working with the charity, but you just paid a one time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Foundation would do is they say, hey, listen, you can put our badge on your site. Just give us like $25,000, right? But then what if you're
first of all, that's crazy. That's crazy to me right there. But
that's actually that's reality, right? So
wow.
You could go put that thing on your badge, but what happens after that? Now you have the badge, and Melanoma Foundation's like, cool, I got $25,000, but like they're not banking on reoccurring revenue. Now you actually are utilizing that to get donations, but what happens after that? That's why there's lots of Shopify stores right now getting in trouble for this, specifically because there's raising money, but there's no validation. Now there's couple plugins in Shopify that say, okay, we can do roundups, and we would do the same thing, but there's no platform that actually validates what happens to the spend afterwards, right? So
you're saying the money just goes directly to the merchant, and kind of the burden of proof is on the merchant to deposit the money, but they don't do it. It gets lost. It just goes into their. It should be going. So Wishes Inc.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
so how'd you come up with this? Like, did you donate somewhere and then go, this is messed up, or just see it across the whole industry?
Well, so the way that it's transparency, but there's some other cool things that I'll talk about. But I think I watched a Netflix special, and it was about some scam that happened on GoFundMe, right? So basically, these people like. These couple got together with this bum, and then they made this story up about like how they were going to save. It was like to save his life. You'd take him off drugs and like all this whole thing. And it was a big thing. It's called, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Netflix documentary. It's like an hour. It's really good. But these guys raised like over $1.5 million. And then they found out that they actually utilized all this. They barely gave the bum anything. They gave him like $15,000, right? And then they actually took trips like all over the world, and like they spent all this cash.
Horrible.
So they actually all went to prison, all three of these people. But that kind of stuff happens on GoFundMe more than you realize, because when you donate to a story, you're motivated. You're like, oh my God, okay, this person needs help with whatever. But people are suffering out there, so they're willing to make up whatever to get cash, right? So you really don't know what's real, what's not real. And when you donate into a story, it goes into a black hole. That black hole, you have no idea what happens to the cash afterwards. So I figured, with my platform, with my experience building card issuing technology, we can turn any donation into an actual virtual credit card, and then we can attach those to the resources and support. So think about a wisher in our system says, hey, I need help getting my son back and forth to school. I need some groceries to put on the table, right? Well, we can turn those donations into cards that can basically like fleet cards that can only be utilized on groceries and rideshare, right? And we'll attach the card to Uber or Lyft or an Instacart, and then everyone can see what happens to the money, and they can't spend it anywhere else, right? So they're getting exactly what they asked for, and it's all instantaneously. So it doesn't go into a black hole. The money gets directly to the people that you want to impact, because part of donating is connection, right? You want to feel that connection that you're actually helping someone or helping a cause. And if you don't know what happens to the money, how do you lose that connection? The connection's not there, right?
Right.
You donate to the Red Cross, you see them on the ground floor at these big crises. They basically are handing out Ziploc bags with like a piece of soap and a toothbrush and all this stuff. Like they're generating millions, like billions, and like they're giving out Ziploc bags. And I'm not rapping on them, but like kinda, right? Like where does all the cash go, right?
Where's all that money going, Chase? What?
100%.
Yeah.
The cool thing though for donors, right? So because we have it segmented by categories, first of all, you get a tax deductible donation. Unlike on GoFundMe, you don't get a tax deductible donation. Here you do because our nonprofit owns all these things. But we have our nonprofit owns 9 LLCs that are specifically categorized for the bonus categories on your credit card, like airfare, restaurant, hotel, groceries, gas. So when somebody asks for rideshare, gas, and all these things, you actually are donating, and that those cards are specifically sent over for those particular services, but you're hitting your bonus categories on your credit card. So you're getting your cashback incentives, your bonuses, by actually donating to a hotel category to give somebody a night stay or groceries or those things. Because all credit cards offer bonus categories to spend money in those categories. Right. So you actually get the tax incentives and the cashback incentives on top of that. Plus, you actually see the transparency on the donated dollars.
That's a win-win-win, right?
Totally. Yeah. And then if you're raising money online, you can instantly set up a fundraiser and have full accountability. You don't have to start up a nonprofit. You don't have to start up a charity. You can you leverage our 501c, raise money because of the fact that we actually give full transparency on the donated dollars. There's no like ifs, ands, and buts about it. We actually, it's fully transparent on all sides. So nobody can really set up a fake organization and then, start paying out money to something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I personally love this. I think this is great because this is a specific space with your background that just seems perfect. Tell me your thoughts on the future of currency and fintech with trust and transparency, and where you think this is all going. Because me personally, I haven't heard too much about this. I've seen a lot of things online where people are doing kind of the roundup and then donate. But you're right; it's confusing as to where exactly the money's going.
You go to Safeway and they ask for $1, but do you ever actually understand where that dollar goes, or when it's donated? No, there's nothing. So this actually solves all those problems. But if you think about like crypto and blockchain and all that stuff, yeah, there's creating ledgers on both sides of the transaction. But is that today? Absolutely not. Is that like 5-10 years from now? Probably. But probably not actually. They just saw that the quantum computers can actually break the crypto 256 encryption bit. So now they thought that the crypto was built on the idea that this was in the blockchain and there was this 256 encryption that would actually prevent people. It would take them 100 years to figure out the passcode of the public key. Well, no, actually, the new quantum computers can do it in 2 days. So the reality is that crypto, honestly, is probably not the digital currency of the future. It can't be, because it's breakable. And the people that actually have the money that can afford these quantum computers, like Russia and China, could go and wipe out everybody's safes overnight, like while we're sleeping, right? So, and that's scary. And because there's no protection, they can manufacture these public keys and then go steal whatever's in there, right? Overnight.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's reality. And this isn't coming from me. This is actually public knowledge. I was up like a few weeks ago, and Walter Bryan, who was my mentor for a couple years, who's quotably the smartest IQ ever recorded in history. He's basically talking about it over this last week and about how this is all like really a thing. Like digital currency is the future, 100%. Will it be crypto? I don't think so, honestly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it to really comment on that, but that's
well, the whole idea behind crypto is that this 256, encryption that can never be hacked, but actually it can be hacked, and it can be hacked in a matter of days. And so nobody's like assets are actually safe in crypto long term, honestly.
Yeah, because like that, you're right. Everybody's saying like, look, if you have your key to your wallet, then you can get in. But if you're saying the key can be hacked by a quantum computer, then nobody's really safe if that's kind of the key to your money, your crypto,
So maybe it was the beginning fledgling of like digital currency is the future. Digital currency is the future. It just won't be crypto.
So what do you think it's going to be?
Some sort of digital currency that's going to be able to withstand these quantum computers that can just like, make up these passwords. And so someone brilliant is going to come in and figure out some new way to, make it unbreakable and unhackable. And then probably in like 5-6 years, that'll probably get, but I feel like it's going to be some sort of universal currency that, along the lines of crypto, like crypto, it makes total sense. You can send it instantly globally anywhere, right?
Yep.
But that's why I like the idea of trusted transparency in credit cards, right? Because if you're creating a card ledger, you're creating a card and that's leaving a traceable event of the transactions on both sides of the transaction. What is crypto? It's ledgers, but now it's a hackable ledger that is really not going to be safe for the long term.
No, that's not. Yeah, that's crazy. Are you guys with Wishes working directly with charities?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're going.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Tell us more.
So we work with charity. There's two business models for what we're doing. One of the business models is actually to go crush GoFundMe and take them out of business because our model is so much better. And actually, it's a lot more lucrative because we open up so when we issue cards, we actually open up our affiliate networks. And so we actually make revenue from the shopping itself, where our people shop. Shoot, I just lost my train of thought. What was the question?
It's all good. It's all good. It was like, are you working directly with charities too?
Yeah. So the second mechanism is to be the validation mechanism for charities themselves. So we want to be able to, it's a plugin that charities can utilize that would allow any donors to donate money and understand where their money goes and what it's being spent on. And I think that's the bigger opportunity that we're really chasing after. The GoFundMe customer, model, that's definitely a thing, but we think the bigger opportunity is to work with e-commerce sites that are donating to charities and then work with charities themselves and be the validation mechanism for those platforms.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really really much needed, especially in this space. So how exactly does Wishes make money?
Yeah. So essentially how we make money is, so just like GoFundMe on the 2.9 and 30 cents, that's the only fee that anyone ever sees. So when someone donates, they're not getting charged. That just comes off of what happened, which goes to the wishers. So essentially 97% of all the money goes to its intended cause. We make a part of the fund fees there, just like GoFundMe does. But where we actually monetize in a different strategy than GoFundMe does is since we're issuing virtual credit cards, we actually make money on the actual the card itself when it's spent. So when money is spent at Home Depot or Walgreens or Walmart or whatever, we're actually making card interchange on that spend. And then we're also making 3 to 12% on the affiliate commission. So when they shop at Amazon or Walmart or whatever, so we're making about 17% on the donated dollars. Actually, the model's pretty awesome. But the only fees that anyone ever gets charged or everyone ever sees is that 2.9 and 30 cents.
Wow, that's great. That's pretty slick. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Is there anything else you want to touch on? I mean, one thing that comes to mind for me is like, I see people doing this all the time on Facebook where they're saying, hey, I'm trying to raise some money for my birthday for this cause, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Do you know, and I haven't looked into this, like where does that money go? Like Facebook's doing something similar. Is that going directly to Red Cross or whoever's on the back end? Are they holding it? How the heck does that work?
Yeah, well, I think, Facebook is just, listen, I think in social circles, people want to post it on there because honestly, it's not about like, if it was really just about them giving it to a charity, they wouldn't say anything about it. But
agree.
People want to go, look at me, I'm donating to a charity. Like, help this cause and for my birthday, whatever the cause thing is. But people want that, recognition, honestly. So that's really how, a lot of funds, most of the funds actually are for people donating individually are done through Facebook, Reddit, and Twitter. The three of those combined for almost 100% of all like social media.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to raise money, but, by individuals specifically, it's mainly all done on those platforms. How they handle it on the back end, I'm not exactly sure. But what our platform will allow that to do is we actually push it into, it utilizes our 501c platform. Facebook could raise those dollars, but essentially it would go into the Wishes like escrow account, and then from there we'd push it into wherever those funds were supposed to be donated, and then account for every dollar that's being allocated. So that obviously still doesn't exist on Facebook. It's something that we'd be bringing to the table for fundraisers like that. Yeah.
Okay, I love all this.
Yeah.
Specifically with Shopify, are you guys working with Shopify potentially to have an app or something where this could be a roundup?
Yeah,
and that would be donated, and then it would go to you guys, so there's no BS happening.
Yeah, correct. So we're building a plugin so that would be available to Shopify stores, WooCommerce stores, and BigCommerce initially, and that would allow anyone that donates to those campaigns or sends money to those campaigns or rounds up to any store that's saying that they're donating to a particular charity, we'll provide full reporting for where those donated dollars go. So that way you can even post that on your website and have that badge of transparency to show, hey, listen, we really are raising these monies. Look at where we're out there raising these dollars, doing exactly what we said they are. But not only that, we're showing you exactly how that money is being spent. And I think that's the difference maker, because it just doesn't exist on the market, and we believe that this really will change the charitable giving and crowdfunding. How this works in today, because once people understand like where their money goes, they're way more likely to donate again and again, because trust is built with transparency, and that's it. Like when there's no transparency on the donated dollars, people are skeptical. I mean, and especially when there's tons of examples of people using it nefariously and like not actually donating dollars. And look at Susan B. Coleman, charity.
Yep.
Jesus, yep. I mean, like that's insane. You go to the parking lot, it's all Range Rovers and Mercedes, and it's like, well, where's the money going? It's like, well, obviously we figured out where the money's going. But that happens all over the place.
Well, even like I work with a couple Shopify brands, and like some of them have done stuff like this, and some of them do it right now. And really, it's kind of a burden for the brand to keep track of all this, and then make sure that they send the money bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. And so it really does solve a lot of those friction points inside of this, and make it easier for them to help a good cause. So it's a beautiful thing.
And just think about like how many things are happening all the time. Like, you turn on the news and there's like a new disaster, right? So like, what if you just want to like turn it around and just like start raising money for that? And it's almost impossible to do that today, right? You can't just like, okay, how are you going to do it? Like, how are you going to get the money there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you're donating to a charity and then all of a sudden you want to switch it up to a cause that's happening, like, or a crisis that's happening right now, how do you even do that? Like, how do you do that and then distribute the funds to the people that actually need it and make sure that it gets there and account for it? Right.
Right.
That's the magic of what we do. Right. So,
yeah. Okay. I know we're getting close on time here, and I told you beforehand, Chase, your background's impressive. You're doing some great stuff right now with Wishes. What are some actionable tips that you can give to the e-commerce documentation podcast? I mean, billions in processed payments. Your valuations was hundreds of millions of dollars at ProfitPay. Like what?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, we never get to where we're going. We don't give ourselves credit enough, like when we're going along that journey, and we always end up comparing ourselves to other people. And I'm the worst at that. And I think, a lot of times you just have to cut yourself some slack and remember that this is your journey and nobody else's. So it's really hard to do that in the moment, because you probably have friends. If you're in e-commerce, you have a bunch of friends that are making all kinds of cash, and you're like, dude, well, I'm not there yet. I'm not making that kind of money. So it's super easy to compare yourself to those people, and then you beat yourself down about it. And I think, you just got to remember that your journey is your own. And, if you're building something unique or something of value and it hasn't been done before, then, remember, it hasn't been done before. Like, you're going to have your own problems and your own unique things hurdles that you have to cross, and they're not going to be the same as somebody else that, maybe he sold a t-shirt and then made it sold a zillion. And you're like, dude, like, how come I can't just sell a zillion t-shirts? Like, it's so much easier. But, you know, is it easier? No, they probably had their own problems too. So like, you know, I think that's probably the best advice, is that just not comparing yourself to others, and then just remembering that your journey is always going to be different than everyone else's. And, you know, the problems that you encounter along your way are going to be different, and to just be persistent. It sounds like cliche, but, you know, it's easy to quit when shit hits the fan, and, you know, you don't realize how close you are to actually trying to, you know, making it there. And that's actually the truth. You know, it's really the truth. You just got to push through the tough times and, you know, make it all happen. So
I like that. That's great advice. Chase Harmer, everybody. Dude, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Yeah. Where can people go connect with you, learn more about you?
Yeah. You know, if you're interested as an e-commerce store to utilize the Roundup technology and all that stuff, we're launching the app in May, but you can go in there and just give us your information so we can contact you when it's ready. On wishes.inc. You can reach me on LinkedIn at Chase Harmer. And yeah, I mean, those two places. And yeah, I mean, that's the way right there. So
sweet. I'll put links down below in the show notes. Chase, thanks, brother.
Awesome.
Talk soon.
Thanks so much.
All right, man.